With Simon Miller out of action, a range of WhatCulture superstars have been taking his place. But what do we have in store tonight as Phil Chambers takes over ups and downs? So we kickstarted Smackdown this week because we saw all the wrestlers arriving in the building like we've seen every bloody WWE show for months and months and months now. But they mixed it up a little bit, which I quite like, because you saw Drew McIntyre walking down the hallway and he sees something off in the distance. He legs it towards them, and then he attacks Damien Priest straight away to kick off SmackDown. He throws him into a box and lays him out on the floor, and then just kind of shouts at him saying, "What did you think would happen?" Obviously, after the Elimination Chamber stuff. So I kind of like that they're mixing these things up and kind of throwing something in there that will keep you interested for the future. But welcome to Ups and Downs. Yes, Simon Miller is obviously not here. He will be back for Raw, though, so don't worry. He will be back very, very soon to take his rightful spot. You know what? I don't actually think I'm ready to take over Ups and Downs this week. I just can't do it. But I think I've got a replacement. I think you actually know the guy. And he's gonna kick Ups and Downs' teeth all over the city of Chicago. Randy Orton comes out to kick off SmackDown proper, and he's talking about John Cena and what happened at the Elimination Chamber, and he says he's always been at the top of his profession, and now he's just a bottom for The Rock. Get it? You get it, right? But then he moved over to talking about Kevin Owens. He said he respects Kevin Owens' story about like how he got to where he is and the work that he's put in the past. But he has a problem with Kevin Owens, the man. And then he runs down everything about his jealousy and what Kevin did to Cody and Sami and Randy Orton himself. But he wants to know what Kevin Owens has to be jealous about. He's won titles. He's done everything he could possibly have ever wanted to do in this business. He's main evented WrestleManias, one of them with bloody Stone Cold Steve Austin. But it's never enough for him. But after everything that Kevin Owens has done to him, he's goddamn pissed off, darn tootin'. And he attacked him at the Elimination Chamber, and when he did, he felt something that he hasn't felt in a really long time. The voices were back in his head, and they were telling him to kick Kevin Owens in the head as hard as he possibly could. And he is going to prove that Pat McAfee is only the second best punter in WWE. Now this is going to get an up, because Randy Orton, he was sort of fired up and he sort of got to the point and it didn't overstay its welcome like some sort of opening promos can tend to do. He got to the point, he got his message across, and then he got out of there. It was kind of short-ish but sweet and like, yeah, fired up, and we're ready for this Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton angle. We cut backstage and Tiffany Stratton was with Nick Aldis, and then Chelsea Green barges in with Piper Niven, and she was complaining that she had to defend her title again tonight. God damn you, Nick Aldis, what do you think you're doing to her? But Tiffany wants to shut her up, and she wants to do it in a match, but she can't do it in a match because Chelsea already has a match, so she ends up having a match with Piper, and that's going to be next. And we went straight into that match, and it was Tiffany Stratton versus Piper Niven, and this was all the kind of speed of Tiffany Stratton versus the strength of Piper Niven. Quite obviously, there was a cool bit when like Tiffany did the handspring across the ring into the corner, but got caught and just dumped out to the outside. But Simon Miller will be very pleased to know that the ads are in full strength, because when we came back from the adverts, Tiffany was back in control. But it ended when Piper Niven hit a big boss man slam on Tiffany Stratton, and then she went up to the top. She tried to do that like bouncing splash thing. She missed that, and Tiffany Stratton hit the prettiest moonsault ever. Tiffany Stratton wins. Match itself was fine, nothing to write home about. It's not going to be the best thing you ever see, but it certainly won't be the worst thing you'll ever see. But this kind of after match thing was more about the point of this, because Charlotte Flair runs out, she attacks Tiffany Stratton, she gets her locked in the figure of 8 before a bunch of referees have to come and break it up. So I'm gonna give this an up, but again, not the greatest thing in the world, but also definitely not the worst. And there's more about this sort of Charlotte Flair stuff later on, so stay tuned because I've got some more thoughts. We then saw Nick Aldis backstage with a whiteboard with like photos of all the tag teams in the scene on it, and he was just kind of drawing lines all over it and basically just using this as a recap for everything that has been happening in the tag team division. But it boils down to next week we are going to have DIY versus the Street Profits for the tag team titles, and tonight on SmackDown, last night, whatever, it is going to be Pretty Deadly versus Los Garzas versus the Motor City Machine Guns to decide who the number one contenders are for whoever wins the belts next week. Now this was a little bit weird. It was just Nick Aldis kind of chatting to the camera with a bunch of footage of everything that's been happening in the tag team scenes, and he was just drawing lines willy-nilly all over this whiteboard. but I actually kind of liked it. It was kind of an interesting way to kind of recap everything that had been going on and set up a couple of matches, and I'm into it. I like to try new things like this all the time. And then it was straight into this tag team match, the triple threat one for the #1 contendership for the tag team titles. So it was Las Garzas versus Pretty Deadly versus Motor City Machine Guns. And it was one of those weird matches where it's kind of, there's 3 teams, but only 2 teams are allowed to be in there at once. So one team has to tag a different team in order to get in. It was one of those, I'd never quite understand them. For some reason, the action of Angel Garza whipping his pants off made everyone go crazy, and they all just kind of ran into the ring into a big schmoz, and it ended up in a bunch of chaos that ended with Las Garzas doing synchronized moonsaults to the outside from the top rope. But then the ad break came back, and when we came back, the Garzas weren't even the legal man. This has got to be the most atrocious ad break thing ever. They were on top. They were doing moonsaults off the top rope, and when we came back, they weren't even legal in the match. How does that work? The adverts are the strongest thing in wrestling. Eventually, the whole thing ended up in chaos again, with everyone hitting their moves on everyone else, and then everyone doing dives to the outside and things. But then the Motor City Machine Guns were going to go for Skull and Bones, but Pretty Deadly stole one by pushing one of the Motor City Machine Guns off the top rope, can't remember which one, and then a roll up on the other one to get the 1, 2, 3, and this is definitely getting an up. The match itself was good fun, but Pretty Deadly getting a win. Hell yes, it's going to be Pretty Deadly versus either DIY or the Street Profits, whoever wins that match next week. So yes, I'm into Pretty Deadly getting a win, so that is definitely an up. Then we got some more Elimination Chamber fallout because Bianca Belair came out and she wanted answers about what happened between Jade Cargill and Naomi. She was talking about how it's really hard to focus on her match at WrestleMania when her 2 best friends are fighting. She said that like tagging with Naomi whilst they were doing that, they just became best friends and became really close, and now no one's texting each other and no one's texting her back, so she needs them to come out on worldwide TV in the middle of a arena to answer some questions because they wouldn't do it over text. Seems like a strange move, but yeah, okay, whatever. Naomi comes out with a sparkly neck brace on and basically was saying that, like, who had your back when Jade couldn't compete? It was me, and just sort of dancing around the question, not really answering Bianca Belair's questions. And Bianca Belair was like straight on, did you attack her? But Naomi was just kind of dancing around the truth, saying that like Jade was piggybacking off Bianca, and while Naomi was pushed to the side, she was still supporting them, and eventually it boils down to her just saying that she doesn't give a damn about Jade Cargill because Jade Cargill doesn't give a damn about Bianca. Then they just started arguing and talking over each other constantly until Bianca had just had enough and like yells stop and demands a yes or no answer from Naomi. Did you attack Jade Cargill? And they are both crying at this point, and Naomi says she did it. She attacked Jade Cargill. She did it for you, Bianca. She did it for us. She did it for The Rock. She didn't do it for The Rock, I added that bit, but she said the other things. And like I say, they were both crying at this point, and Bianca says she is done with her and Naomi, and she starts to walk away. But as she's walking up the ramp, Naomi takes off her neck brace, starts yelling down at Bianca, saying the truth is she should have pushed her harder, she should have pushed her sooner. And every time Naomi stands up for herself, everyone turns on her, including Bianca Belair. You ungrateful bitch. Now this obviously stops Bianca in her tracks and she turns around to Naomi, but this is shot really, really well from WWE because kind of as she turns around, the camera follows her, and then behind on the Titantron you see a car pull up to the arena and Jade Cargill gets out and she is coming down to the arena, and it's a little bit late for work here, Jade. You are like an hour into SmackDown. Maybe this is why you get heat. Maybe you should just arrive at on time, hey? Ever think about that? Have you? Have you ever thought about that? Have you, Jade? Have you? But she comes out to the arena and Bianca kind of gives her the nod and lets her go down to the ring to chase off Naomi. Naomi kind of tries to run away, but Jade grabs her, just throws her around a bit on the outside, gets her back in the ring, hits the Jaded, and stands over her tall with, stands over her. Like, she's beating her. You know what I mean. So this is getting up not only because they played it off really well, it felt really emotional, it felt quite real between the two of them, and was also quite different at the same time, something that they, like WWE, haven't really explored much in terms of the storytelling between two friends. So it's getting it up for those reasons, but it also getting it up because the Jade and Naomi thing is a storyline within WWE that involves the women that doesn't involve a championship, which we have been very, very light on in recent years. So yeah, all of this is good stuff by all three of them. I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to all of the matches that'll come out of it. And yeah, you saw the finger. It's an up. Then we saw Drew McIntyre backstage with Byron Saxton, and Byron was asking him why you attacked Priest unprovoked. And Drew McIntyre took some offense to the word unprovoked, because in his mind it absolutely is not. Priest stole the pin from him at Elimination Chamber when Drew had John Cena beat. He took WrestleMania away from him, and now all that's left is violence. But Byron Saxton was earning his keep this week, because he was also backstage with Charlotte Flair next, and she was saying that the women's division has gone soft and there's levels to what we do, and that she is at the tippity top of it all. But then who else came out but B-Fab wanders in. And she says that no one is interested in bowing down to you anymore, Charlotte. Like, things have changed within the women's division. And Charlotte basically just says that everybody bows down to the Queen eventually. And it boils out that we're going to have next week Charlotte Flair versus B-Fab. So yeah, good luck with that one, B-Fab. Now, I am going to come in here with a bit of a down, because this sort of build between Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton, it's like ever since the Royal Rumble, you got the sort of heights of like Charlotte Flair's return, her winning the Rumble, but ever since then, it's just felt like they're just treading water with it, and they don't really know what to do in terms of an actual story for it. It's just two people going up against each other, and they're just kind of killing time to get to WrestleMania itself. So I feel like it needs a bit more thrown into the mix. I just feel like it's such a big match at WrestleMania that it kind of just needs that extra spice put into the build of it. You can't just rely on the match itself being great without just adding that little bit of story to make it even better. So I'm gonna give that a down. But then we moved over to Braun Strowman versus Solo Sikoa, and this was obviously the big men slapping man meat kind of thing. Braun kind of went for his choo-choo train thing on the outside, but Solo moves out of the way and he went straight into the steel steps, and that put Solo in control for a bit and got him like back into the ring, and he just did this big power up into a Samoan drop that was pretty cool. But Strowman geared back into it, and he hit a big crossbody like you do when you're Braun Strowman, obviously, I guess, why not? And he got back on his choo-choo train, but it worked this time. He was on the tracks and it went forward, and he hit Solo Sikoa, knocked him out on the outside, got him back in the ring. He hit him with a big power slam, and he was about to win, but then Tama Tonga run in and attacks Braun Strowman, obviously causing a DQ. Now, this didn't end here, because Braun Strowman fought back into it. He sort of ended up getting back on top, and then out comes Jacob Fatu. And this ends up like they're staring down at each other, and then Braun Strowman just does a massive spit on the floor. And it's always weirded me out when people do this in wrestling. Like, you're inside. I mean, it's gross enough when you do it outside, but you're inside, man. How would you like it if I came round to your house, Braun, and I just started spitting all over it? All over your house, on your couch, on your chips. How would you like it if I spat on your chips, Braun? You wouldn't like it at all, would you? Anywho, Jacob went for a dive, but Braun Strowman catches him, slams him on the announce desk, but then Jacob Fatu rises up, because nothing can keep him down. He rises up behind him, and he like jumps onto Braun again off the announce desk. They end up fighting out into the crowd and back into a tech area, and like Braun Strowman, well, both of them like get on top of this big box-like structure, and Braun choke slams Jacob Fatu off these big blue boxes down through two tables on the outside of it. And Jacob Fatu just keeps on getting up. I mean, this was the end of the brawl, and he kind of walks off with some like referees and security and things. But yeah, man, you just can't keep Jacob Fatu down at all. So this is getting an up. The match itself was quite fun, but the sort of aftermath with Jacob Fatu, this stuff with Braun Strowman is shaping up to be quite fun. And whatever they do at WrestleMania, I think it's going to stand out on that card, just because it's going to be a big schmoz of big stupid spots and things. And to be fair, I'm entirely into it. Like, why not? Things need to be shaken up. You can't have everything just be like a straight one-on-one match. Let's have a big dumb brawl as one of these things, and just see what stupid stuff Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu can get up to. So yeah, this is an up. Now, let me talk to you, because LA Knight was backstage again with Byron Saxton. Such a hard worker. Well done. And he's setting his sights on Shinsuke Nakamura, because he's got him later on in the main event for the US title. And he's going to smack him back to factory settings, and that the US title kind of deserves better representation, and it's going to be him, god damn it. And then we saw Chelsea Green and Piper Niven backstage again. And Chelsea Green was dressed as Cactus Jack for her street fight. And I'm just going to give her an up, because Chelsea Green is like my favorite thing at the minute. Every single time she's on TV, she maximizes her minutes as much as humanly possible. Doesn't matter what they give her, whether they give her 2 seconds or 20 minutes out there, she's going to make it really entertaining. You know, screw that. It's not just an up, it's a golden up for Chelsea Green, and maybe possibly the Cactus Jack tie-in, so I might be a little bit biased. But still, anyway, Chelsea Green, 100% golden up for everything she's done in WWE. She's great. I love her. She's the best. But she was trying to get Piper Niven to shake off her loss earlier, and Piper just looked like an absolute wreck with like glasses and things dangling off all over the place. And she's trying to get her in because she's a secret herbalist, damn it, and she needs her in the street fight. But then in comes Zelina Vega, and she says that she is coming after Chelsea Green's US title. And then Chelsea Green's music starts, and she just kind of drags Piper off by the tie to get down to the ring. So we were going straight into this match with Chelsea Green versus Michin in a street fight for the women's US title. And Chelsea Green was Cactus Jack. I can't get over it. It's just the best thing. And Piper Niven looked like an absolute mess, which was really funny from the first match. They're just, everything they do is great. They're just great. Michin came out with a bin full of stuff, and she started off with a baking tray, which is just classic street fight. And they moved on to the chairs, and then she grabbed some chains. But then Chelsea came in with a bin, and then she was going to power slam Michin on the chains, but then Michin did a back body drop, so Chelsea Green landed on them instead. And then Michin was just biting Chelsea Green's fingers, and then Michin was trying to get a table out, but Chelsea hit a zigzag on the outside and then put the table back away. And then Michin got a fire extinguisher and fired it in Chelsea Green's face and got the table back out, but then Piper Niven comes in and attacks Michin, so the table went away again. But then they got in the ring, and Chelsea Green hit coast to coast with Michin in the corner with a bin in front of her. And again, I'm just going to say it, Chelsea Green's the best. I can't say it enough because it's true. But then out comes B-Fab, and she's chasing off Piper Niven with a kendo stick, which means no more secret herbists at ringside. What is Chelsea going to do? Obviously, this causes a distraction, which lets Michin get the kendo stick and start attacking her, and then hit her in a cannonball in the corner onto the bins for a 2 count. Now, Michin finally manages to get that table into the ring and starts sending it up in the corner, but then Chelsea gives her a bulldog into it, and then the Michin hits an eat defeat, so Chelsea kind of bounces onto the table, and then the table kind of fell over, so like one of the legs collapsed, and then it was kind of just dangling on one of the ropes. And this bit I kind of like, because Michin was just like, it's still kind of up, I'm still gonna do it, and goes up top to hit the senton through the table. Table still breaks. It worked out really well and was much better than trying to like reconfigure the table and things. I like that they just went with it. That was a good move. But just as you think Michin is going to win the US title, out comes someone wearing a hoodie. She pulls Chelsea Green out of the ring at the very last minute and starts attacking Michin. She hits a Canadian Destroyer on the chairs in the ring, and it turns out it is Alba Fire, and she is the latest member of Chelsea Green's secret hervis. She chucks Chelsea Green back into the ring. Chelsea gets the 1, 2, 3. She wins. She retains her US title. And yeah, like I say, Alba Fire holds her at the end, doing big salutes because she's now in the secret hervis. So all of these weeks that Chelsea has been desperate for more people in her secret hervis, she's finally got it in the likes of Alba Fire. So obviously this match gets an up. Not just because it's got Chelsea Green in it. I know I am biased, obviously, I've kind of shown that, but it was really, really good fun. And yeah, just a fun, silly street fight, and we've got a new member of the Secret Hervis, and it's, yeah, fun things to come. But we go backstage again, and we're starting to see some ripples within Legado del Fantasma, because Santos Escobar was shouting at Los Garza for losing their match, obviously. And then they kind of, like, stormed off, but left Humberto Carrillo back, and Andrade walks in, and he's just like, why do you take that? Like, you deserve better. So, potentially, maybe this is the end of the Los Garzas. Maybe Andrade and Humberto going to join forces and things like that. It's just a little ripples into this, which, to be fair, I'm probably okay with if they start going in a different direction with this, because it's been fine, don't get me wrong, but it's not sort of set the world on fire or anything like that. So I think a new direction for all of these people wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But then out comes Cody Rhodes, and he's got a big old black eye, courtesy of Travis Scott, and his face is a little bit messed up. And this promo was just pure fire, babyface Cody Rhodes. This is Cody on top form. I am into it. He starts off slow, talking about, like, what can he tell his daughter, his 4-year-old daughter, when she looks up at his face and says, "Daddy, what happened?" And the only thing he could think of telling her was that he ran into a wall. But it's not entirely untrue, because he ran into a wall that The Rock set up. But he goes on to say that back when he was a youngin' in the WWE, he drove John Cena around for 2 years just trying to soak up as much knowledge as he possibly could. John was a hero to him, just like he was a hero to all of the other people out in the WWE universe. And one day he'll tell his daughter that a great man that lived by the mantra of never give up, gave up. And then he starts to get intense and he's asking John, why? Why have you done this? He talks directly to the Philly fans because apparently this was the only place his dad was afraid to perform in. He even said that he once painted his face like the Road Warriors just to show that he was cool. But Cody has never shared that fear because they have always cheered him, they've always supported him, they've always had his back. He even finished his story there at WrestleMania 40, and when he was in the ring at the end of that show and John Cena was celebrating with him, John said to him about having the title that it gets heavier every day. Well, here he is, goddammit, holding the title up high. Everyone thinks his successor has to be like him, but he's not. He's holding it up like it weighs nothing. And at goddamn WrestleMania 41, if you want some John Cena, come get some. Now, this was just great. It's peak Cody at peak fired up babyface, and I'm 100% giving it an up. Everything in the kind of main event scene at the minute within WWE feels important. WrestleMania itself feels important. The main event of WrestleMania and the titles feel important and worth fighting for. And yeah, like that position at WrestleMania and having the belt, like that is everything. That is the be all and end all of everything. And yet there's still all these personal stories driven into it to kind of, yes, bring everything together with that sort of personal element. And this was like the best part of all of that. Just pure fired up Cody, and now it's just desperate to find out what John Cena's going to say, what this heel turn thing is going to look like, what that first promo is going to be, what his first match is going to look like, what his entrance at WrestleMania is going to look like. They've changed this one thing, which admittedly isn't exactly a small thing. It's John Cena turning heel. It's a shift, the seismic shift. But this one thing has made the road to WrestleMania, WrestleMania itself, and the entire year of John Cena's return feel like it's important and it's fresh and it's new and it's exciting, and all of it is getting it up. But we go backstage again and it's the Miz and Carmello Hayes and Nick Aldis, and the Miz is talking about how he wants to premiere Mello Don't Miz TV. And then Carmello just starts running everyone down. He talks about Cody at Elimination Chamber, talking about how he just fumbled it with The Rock's offer at the last yard, talking about how Randy has finally got off his couch after playing Fortnite for how long. And then Randy Orton walks in and hears it. Obviously, says Fortnite is for kids, and we're gonna get Randy Orton versus Carmello next week. And then we're back in ring, and it's Drew McIntyre versus Jimmy Uso. Jimmy runs in really early with a flurry of offense, goes for a dive and things, but Drew just punches him straight out of midair. Jimmy manages to hit a crossbody over the announce table to kind of regain control, though, and then it's kind of back and forth action with a bunch of super kicks and things like that. But Jimmy misses the big splash eventually, and Drew hits the Claymore. 1, 2, 3, Drew McIntyre wins. The match was fine. One of the sort of lower points on the show, I'd say. I'm going to give it an up, though, because there was nothing bad about it. But, yeah, you probably could have done a little bit more here. But what happened after kind of continues some storylines. So it's probably alright, because Drew McIntyre kind of turns around and he's about to go back to the ring to attack Jimmy Uso when Damien Priest comes in, lays out Drew McIntyre, and they have a big old brawl that ends up being broken up by security. So at least you're continuing the Damien Priest storyline there, the Damien Priest-Drew McIntyre storyline. But yeah, like I say, the match, I would probably fast forward it if you were watching SmackDown. And then we get a Shinsuke promo hyping up the main event with him versus LA Knight. He says the best place to kill your dreams is in the birthplace of the United States, and that you will beg for mercy and find none. I like all these promos. I like the way they're packaging Shinsuke Nakamura, but they just really haven't done anything with this title run, which is a little bit disappointing. And we're going to get to that in a second, so more on that in a bit. We're backstage with Byron Saxton again, like I say, earning his keep, and he's there with DIY, and they say that there's only one number one team, and that's obviously them, and then they're going to hold a moment of silence for the Street Profits' hopes and dreams, which is what they're going to crush next week in their championship match. And then Byron immediately talks during the moment of silence. And I mean, I know you're working hard, man, but that's just disrespectful. What are you playing at? It's then into the main event, and it is LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura for that US Championship. And Shinsuke is pretty much in control for like 90% of the match. so you can kind of see something coming. Now, after a while of Shinsuke beating up LA Knight, like I say, Knight manages to kind of leap to the top rope and hits a bit of a superplex. He gets his big elbow, but Nakamura kind of scoots out of the ring. Shinsuke then gets a chair and he's going to hit LA Knight, but LA Knight stops him and then he grabs the chair, but then the referee kind of talks him out of using it. But then Shinsuke gets the chair again and they're in the ring, but this time the referee kind of grabs it and takes it off him, and then LA Knight runs at Shinsuke, but Shinsuke just kind of moves out the way and LA almost runs directly into the referee. But then as he turns around, Shinsuke is going to hit the mist, but he misses LA Knight and he hits the referee right in the face. Now LA Knight tries to take advantage of this and hits a roll up, but there's no referee. He can't see. How can he count if he can't see? So Nakamura hits a Scorpion Rising and then he gets the chair and he's gonna attack Knight with it, but Knight hits him instead. He hits his finish on the steel chair. Another ref runs in. 1, 2, 3. We have a new US champion. Now I am going to give an up for the match, and kind of like a lot of this SmackDown, it's again like nothing that you're going to remember in a few weeks time, but it's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and the finish was fun, and LA Knight as a champion I think is the right call right now, because I'm going to give a down for Shinsuke Nakamura's title run in general. Now they kind of brought him back and they had the whole repackage and the heel Shinsuke thing, and they had an opportunity to do something with it, and then they just didn't, and it kind of floundered and was just like nothing was really happening with it, and they didn't put much focus on it. And yeah, it's got to be a down in general. I really hope this is a reset. We can kind of figure out what we're doing with Shinsuke Nakamura, figure out what we're doing with that championship in general, and start putting a little bit more focus on it, a little bit more storylines, give it a good spotlight at WrestleMania, and move forward in the right direction. So yeah, up for the match, but Shinsuke's title run in general, man, it could have been something better. It definitely could. And now, aside from Cody and obviously Chelsea Green, nothing on this kind of felt like must-see TV. It wasn't a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination. I think it was one of the more well-paced 3-hour SmackDowns that we've had since it went to 3 hours, because like a lot of the time things just feel a little bit overly long, or like they're shoved in there for no apparent reason. We had none of that. Like everything had its place, nothing went overly long, and there was like enough backstage things in there to mix it up, but it just felt like it was just fine. And when WWE is so hot right now and everything feels vital and important, and the Cody stuff, like especially, is absolutely great, and the Chelsea Green stuff is obviously great, but everything else surrounding like the WrestleMania and the world title scene is really, really good. It just feels like SmackDown needs to step up its game a little bit just to keep up with the rest of WWE and sort of the rest of the feeling behind everything else. So I am going to give SmackDown overall an up, but yeah, like I say, it just feels like they need to step it up in comparison to Raw and just keep SmackDown, keep pace with the sort of the rest of the main event scene and everything else that's so hot and so great in WWE. Don't understand why it's not quite translating over to SmackDown just yet. But that is it. Thank you very much for joining me. Click the video on your screen. It's ups and downs from Raw, so you can keep watching ups and downs. But don't worry, Simon will be back next week for Raw, so business as usual. So make sure you tune in then. But thank you very much and have yourselves a bloody good day.